Comic book stories are no longer just Marvel and DC's domain. Writer Mark Millar's series Jupiter's Legacy got the Netflix treatment in 2021 with an 8-episode season. After years of work spent bringing it to life, it was canceled after only 1 month. Here's the untold truth of the short-lived show. When Stan Lee gives you comic advice, you take it. Lee co-created Marvel's most iconic characters, but he never owned his own Marvel work, which led to a much lower cut of the profits from Lee's characters than he deserved. Lee even sued Marvel in 2002, dismayed with the meager cut he received from the first Spider-Man movie. Mark Millar worked for Marvel when Lee encouraged him to break from the company to create his own content. Wanting to help Millar avoid the same mistakes he made, Lee coached the budding comic book writer to write for himself instead of a large company. Speaking with Business Insider in 2015, Millar revealed some of the helpful advice that Lee had given him. He said, "Financially, now it's so much better for you guys than it ever was for me. You could own the rights to your own movies and books. You could license this stuff to people like toys. If I had the opportunity you've had, I'd have killed for it."
And with great power comes
great responsibility.
No. Well, yeah.
Given the success that Millar has had as a creator in comics, movies, and TV, it seems like Stan Lee's advice was worth listening to. It's not often that a major studio buys an entire company, but that's precisely what happened with Mark Millar's Millar World company in 2017 when Netflix bought the whole shebang for around $40 million. Of course, the acquisition includes all of Millar's comic works from the company beyond Jupiter's Legacy, including properties like Kick-Ass, Kingsman, and The Magic Order, Netflix's first comic book series, which was released after the company purchased Millar World. Given the prior success of Millar's many works on screen, the purchase doesn't seem to have been a huge risk for the streaming giant. Given that the acquisition happened in 2017, what took so long for the series to end up on Netflix? Millar told The Hollywood Reporter in April 2021 that he had spent time focusing more on the series' quality rather than worrying about how quickly he could get it out, saying, "You can do it fast or you can do it brilliant. That's my philosophy." Still heeding Stan Lee's advice, Millar made sure that he would remain president of Millar World even after the acquisition. In a May 2021 press release about Jupiter's Legacy, Millar noted, "When my wife Lucy and I sold Millar World to Netflix in 2017, our first priority was Jupiter's Legacy. We had flirted with the idea of a movie, but Netflix afforded us the chance to make this adaptation as big and deep as it needed to be." Millar first conceptualized the Jupiter's Legacy series in 2008, but the first issue wasn't published until 2013. Millar handled the words, while Frank quietly handled the series' illustrations, and Pete Doherty took on the lettering. As Millar told The Hollywood Reporter, the Jupiter's Legacy comics are the longest-running series Millar has ever published, spanning over 20 issues. The Netflix series covers 5 issues over a single 8-episode season. Compared to comic book universes like DC and Marvel, 8 years between publishing the first comic and landing a massive Netflix deal for the series isn't exactly a long wait time. Some comics take decades to get adapted for the screen, so going from the page to a full-scale film production in that short a time is far from ordinary. Of course, it helps that Jupiter's Legacy is far from Mark Millar's first foray into Hollywood. With his resume, it was only a matter of time before Jupiter's Legacy was added to his filmography. Few directors have had more success with superhero movies than James Gunn. The director brought Guardians of the Galaxy to the big screen for the first time, establishing a new beloved franchise in the Marvel film canon. He also picked up the pieces from DC's Suicide Squad property with a reimagined follow-up, 2021's The Suicide Squad. So when Gunn gave Millar advice about what he should do with his Jupiter's Legacy property, Millar had good reason to listen. While Jupiter's Legacy was initially conceived as a trilogy film series in 2015, with Lorenzo D. Bonaventura in a production role, Millar discarded the plan with a push from Gunn. During an interview with Den of Geek, Mark Millar revealed that Gunn told him that the comics could never work as a movie. Much of Millar's success comes from listening to those who have come before him, and he proved more than willing to listen to this advice. As Millar told Den of Geek, quote, "The smartest guy in the world is James Gunn." Most TV shows with heavy backstory take an episode or two to lay out the origin story when delving into the characters' histories, but Mark Millar had other ideas with Jupiter's Legacy. Instead of spending a minute or 40 delving into the history of the first superheroes in the Jupiter's Legacy canon, we get to watch the historical origins of the Union of Justice members be revealed throughout the series, one piece at a time. Jumping between past and present, the series dips into its characters' Great Depression backstory, covering their respective histories when it's relevant to do so. So what exactly influenced Millar to take this route? During an interview with The Wrap, he revealed that The Godfather Part 2 provided the inspiration for the series' woven time jumps. According to Millar, the idea was pitched by Stephen DeKnight, the original showrunner for Jupiter's Legacy. In the same way that Michael Corleone and his father Vito's stories play out at the same time, decades apart, so too do the stories of Sheldon and Brandon in Jupiter's Legacy. Millar explained, "The Godfather 2 structure shows the father and the son at the same age. And that's the same thing that's being done here, to show the young characters and the old characters at the same age and essentially making the same mistakes." Jupiter's Legacy has an infinite number of comic book parallels. However, the deepest connection that Skyfox actor Matt Lanter sees might not be what you'd expect. The actor noted the similarities between his Jupiter's Legacy character and his role as Anakin Skywalker on Star Wars The Clone Wars, and the outdated rules of conduct that plagued the heroes of both worlds. Lanter chatted with Looper during an exclusive interview where he compared the rigid nature of the Jedi Council to the strict rules of the Union in Jupiter's Legacy. He said, "The Jedi Council seems antiquated and just doesn't apply in every situation anymore, and the Jedi Council is so black and white in its thinking. I think Anakin realized that things aren't black and white. In fact, there are shades of gray, and that's exactly what's going on in Jupiter's Legacy." In both cases, these unwavering rules lead to the downfall of an otherwise relatively moral hero. The fickle beast that is Mother Nature is something that almost every series or movie deals with at some point during shooting. When the weather decides to do something unexpected, production has two options: roll with it or halt production. Luckily for Jupiter's Legacy, when the skies opened for a dramatic snowstorm, the weather only enhanced the scene's otherworldly quality. During an exclusive interview with Looper, cinematographer Nicole Hirsch-Whitaker, director of photography for several episodes of Jupiter's Legacy, revealed the perils of filming in an unpredictable Canadian climate. In one episode in particular, the series' seventh, the weather wasn't cooperating, leading to heavy and unscripted snowfall. While they were shooting a scene in the woods over the course of a few days, Whitaker explained, "We all went back to our hotels and woke up in the morning and there was 2 feet of snow on the ground, which is very Canadian. We were like, oh my gosh, there's a snowstorm." So basically, we got to set, everybody talked about it, and decided this is an island that's alive, so let's embrace it. So they started writing, and within an hour, we had a new script. Luckily for fans, the surprise snow lends an incredibly realistic backdrop to the scene. Given that the characters head to the island to claim their superpowers, they deal with a whole host of challenges, now including unpredictable weather. The first flashback we get in Jupiter's Legacy kicks off the events of the Great Depression as the stock market crashes. While it's undoubtedly a fascinating point in American history, it's a unique time period to place the origin story of a group of slowly aging superheroes. However, the period makes sense given the year in which Millar began writing the comics. 2008 marked a steady economic decline, leading to a financial crisis the likes of which the world hadn't seen since the Great Depression.
The death of capitalism. That is one hell of a headline.
Millar told The Hollywood Reporter in April 2021, "When I sat down to do this, it was 3 years before I actually wrote it, during the financial crash in 2008. I said, I'm not going to do this unless I can make it the greatest superhero story of all time." Setting the superhero's origin stories in the late 20s with Great Depression ties certainly set the story apart from many of its counterparts. The choice roots the series in a reality that almost everyone can relate to, and offers a unique vantage point for the story to cover. As we've seen with the Marvel Cinematic Universe and DC Extended Universe, there's no shortage of stories waiting to be told when film studios decide to tap into comics characters' legacies. With plenty of source material waiting to be mined, Jupiter's Legacy seemed poised to enjoy a multiple-season run on Netflix. But any hopes fans may have had for follow-up installments were dashed in early June of 2021, when Millar announced that the cast had been released from its contracts. Although Millar indicated that he hadn't quite given up hope for more Jupiter's Legacy on screen at some point, in the short term, Netflix's decision means the show has been canceled. On the bright side, this frees Millar up for other projects, like the upcoming Super Crook series he's set to debut for the platform. It's still a bitter pill to swallow for viewers who came to love the Jupiter's Legacy characters throughout the show, but they can always turn to the comics for more stories. The latest chapter of the saga, Jupiter's Legacy Requiem, was already set to begin arriving in comic shops when the show's cancellation was announced. So where exactly does Millar World, and more specifically Jupiter's Legacy, fall in the comic book landscape? If you ask Matt Lanter, he'll tell you that it's the future of comics and deserves a spot at the top with DC and Marvel. In fact, we did ask Matt Lanter during a Looper exclusive interview. He said, "I think 5 years from now, everyone's going to know that it's Millar World, it's DC, and it's Marvel. So get to know these characters now. Be the first on the train and have fun with it, man." That's a pretty big claim, but it's not without merit. Even though the series isn't moving forward on Netflix, the show still made a huge impression on viewers with a rock-solid debut on the streamer, coming in as the #1 program on the platform upon its release. Additionally, as far as box office is concerned, Millar's 2010 film Kick-Ass brought in over $96 million worldwide, and Kingsman: The Secret Service raked in over $414 million. Those are numbers that are in the range of, or even surpass, some early MCU projects like Captain America: The First Avenger, which brought in over $370 million. In other words, just because Jupiter's Legacy may be over on Netflix, that doesn't mean it's not still the start of something big. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more Looper videos about your favorite movies and TV shows are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.